New customers, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FieldGoal. Bet $5 on Super Bowl 57 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. 21 and over in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Bonus issued as bonus bets. Eligibility and terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms.
Empire.
Welcome to Inside the Cap. I'm your host, Joel Corey. You can find me on Twitter at CoreyJoel. That's CorryJoel. And you can also read my regular CBSSports.com column, Agents Take on NFL Salary Cap and Contract Matters. This is a Super Bowl edition of Inside the Cap, and we're going to take a look at the two participants, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs, from a financial or economic perspective. There is no right or wrong way for a team to put together a championship caliber roster under the salary cap. You can get there in a myriad of ways. There's more than one way to skin a cat, or a cap in this case. And these two teams have gotten there in totally different ways. And what I'm going to do is take a look at the salary cap charges for key participants at the positions: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, grouping offensive line together, edge rushers, interior defensive linemen, true off-ball or non-pass rushing linebackers, cornerbacks, safeties, special teams looped together as a group, and also how much dead money each team has. When I'm talking about the cap numbers, I am including the $295 daily amount that players got under the collective bargaining agreement for participating in the voluntary off-season workout program. So if I talk about a number which isn't like $35.5 million and it's got some weird long number, that is why. Now, in terms of the amount of key participants, I'm looking at 32 players for the Chiefs, 31 for the Eagles, excluding the special teams guys, which will be 3: kicker, punter, holder. So for the Chiefs, that's 16 guys on offense and defense. For the Eagles, that's 14 on offense, 17 on defense. Now, for the 2022 league year, the NFL salary cap is $208.2 million. Now, that is not what each team is working with. There is something called an adjusted salary cap, which is what each team works off of. That differs from the actual cap because you can carry over unused cap room from one year to the next. And there will also be other adjustments to the salary cap based on incentives which were earned or not earned, likely versus not likely, that need to be reconciled. So most teams don't have a salary cap that they're working off of $208.2 million. That's not what their basically working capital is. It's a lot different than that, and you'll see that from the two teams. Now, the league-wide average this year from an adjusted salary cap is $213,468,969, according to the NFLPA data. That is the average. Now, the Chiefs, they're working with one of the lower adjusted salary caps in the league this year. They're in the bottom third. They're at $210,680,092. So they're behind league average of what they have to work with this year. So a little more challenging to put together a roster when that's where you are coming from to begin with. Now, Eagles are at the opposite end of the spectrum. Now, the Eagles have an adjusted salary cap of $225,257,793. That is the second largest adjusted salary cap in the league. The only team which has a bigger one is the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the Jaguars have an adjusted salary cap which put them at $234.9 million. Now, how did Philadelphia get that? Well, something about an unused cap room that you have. You can carry over from one year to the next. The Eagles carried over $16,481,403 from the 2021 league year. Second most adjusted salary cap room. So that gives them a tremendous advantage in terms of how you can build your roster under constraints of the salary cap. Now, both teams didn't use all of their cap room this year. Since you can carry room over, by the time it was all said and done, Philadelphia first was left with $5,443,473 of unused cap room, which was carried over. The Chiefs, on the other hand, are carrying over $2,822,497 to the 2023 league year. Now, these two teams have allocated resources a little bit differently from these key players. Now, with Kansas City, theirs skews heavily to the offense on their key contributors. It's just over $89.601 million to offense and $69.4.3 million to defense. Now, part of that comes from the fact that out of those 16 key contributors that I'm spotlighting, 10 of them are on rookie contracts. So that'll account for the discrepancy, partially explain it. Eagles go the other way. They're defensive oriented from a resource allocation standpoint in a bigger way than the Chiefs are skewed offensively. It's just under $51.825 million on offense for Philadelphia and a little more than $81.5 million on defense for the Eagles. Now, before I get into the individual positions, I want to explain something about something that can inhibit your working salary cap, and that's dead money. And dead money is something which only exists because of how the salary cap rules work, the accounting rules work. That you have certain components of a contract which are prorated. Signing bonus, option bonuses, certain roster bonuses get prorated or spread out evenly over the life of a contract for a maximum of 5 years. So if you trade a player, release a player, cut a player, the remaining proration will immediately hit the salary cap. The future years accelerate. There are two exceptions to this rule with bonus proration accelerating, that if someone retires, is cut, or traded after June 1, then only the bonus proration in the current year will count for that year's cap. The future proration is delayed and hits the cap the following year when the league year begins in March. Now, teams can also get that same treatment with what's called a post-June 1 designation. Each league year, a team can release 2 players prior to June 2nd, known as post-June 1 designations. That's the term of art. And they get treated like they were released after June 1, so they get that same 2-year split with the bonus proration. There's one catch. You got to carry the player's full cap number or cap hit, even though you released him. He can be signed elsewhere until June 2nd. And at that point, the salary which you're carrying comes off the books unless it's guaranteed. Now, dead money is typically a sunk cost from an accounting standpoint. Unless there are guarantees, there's no payment associated with it. And now, my definition of dead money is very strict, which is a salary cap charge for a player no longer on the roster. That means with Fletcher Cox, for example, he's someone that Philadelphia used posting one designation on and then re-signed a couple of weeks later. So with the posting one designation, they have a salary cap charge of $12,826,820. Since they re-signed him, I don't call that dead money. I'm putting that as part of his salary cap charge. So I'm treating him that way. I'm treating anyone who is still under contract with the team that had been released. So if you're on the practice squad, that's not dead money for me. Derek Barnett's another example of that. Had a voiding contract, so they've got $7.248 million basically, which is part of his cap charge. Even though for the new contract, he has a cap number of a little under $2.68 million. So I'm using the combined number for Derek Barnett. Now, if you've got such a high adjusted salary cap, you have latitude to have more dead money. And the way the dead money is split this year, the Eagles essentially have twice as much dead money as Kansas City. And that's because Howie Roseman's not afraid to rectify a mistake. And we saw that last year when he moved on from Carson Wentz, despite $33.8 million in dead money from the extension they gave in 2019 with the signing bonus and option bonus. Now, Chiefs have $15.16 million of dead money. They only have one charge over $2 million, and that belongs to linebacker Anthony Hitchens, who was released last February. That's $4,223,750. Now, the Eagles, the way I'm defining dead money, it's $32.4 million. And some of these charges date back to 2021 transactions. They've got 4 dead money charges over $3.5 million. You've got the largest one is from defensive tackle Malik Jackson. He and Alshon Jeffrey were both released with post-June 1 designations in 2021. So the 2022 portion of the bonus proration left in their contracts is the 2022. I mean, the any proration after 2021 is a 2022 cap charge. So that's $9.033 million for Malik Jackson. Alshon Jeffrey, a little shade over $5.4 million. You also have Zach Ertz at $3.548 million from his trade towards I think it was late September, early October of the 2021 season when he went to the Cardinals. Things like after week 5 or 6 in a trade. That's from the 2021 season. Brandon Brooks, the offensive guard who retired last year, after last offseason, they did something the Saints did with Drew Brees. Held him on the roster till June 3rd, so they could split his dead money up in 2 years. He's got a little over $15.7 million in total dead money, but it's getting split in 2022 and 2023 at $5,939,235 in 2022, $7,979,237 in 2023. Now, let's move to the offensive side of the ball with the most important position on a football team, quarterback. And there's a stark contrast in how these two teams allocating resources at quarterback. Now, Kansas City, higher degree of difficulty in roster building because of Patrick Mahomes' contract. This is one of the first years that 10-year extension he signed in 2020 with 2 years left on his rookie contract has a high cap number. They did not elect to restructure Mahomes' contract and push the cap obligations off until tomorrow. So he's got the league's second highest cap number at $35,793,381. That is Mahomes' cap number, second largest in the league. Now, they got to work around that. Mahomes, counting on the cap, almost 17%. By counting the cap, I mean of their adjusted salary cap, not the $208.2 million. That's what his cap number is. taking up almost 70%, 17% of Kansas City's cap space this year. Jalen Hurts, 2020 second round pick, opposite end of the spectrum. He's on a rookie contract. Now, the most valuable commodity in the NFL is hitting on a quarterback in his rookie contract because of the roster flexibility it can give you. You can amass more talent because you have a cost-contained, low, very affordable quarterback when they're on a rookie contract, particularly when they're not drafted in the first round. So, Hurts has a cap number this year of a whopping $1,651,195. So, big discrepancy there. He's taken up 0.073% of Philadelphia's salary cap, as opposed to Mahomes taking up almost 17%, not even 1%. And Mahomes' cap number is almost 22 times Hurts's. So that is going to explain why Philadelphia has a lot more depth to the roster than Kansas City does. Now, neither team is really putting any money into running back, and that's not really a surprise. I wouldn't invest a lot of money in a running back either. Running backs can be found practically anywhere in the draft, and you'll get diminishing returns on a huge second contract. Now, Philadelphia, Miles Sanders, relative to his cap number, great value for Philadelphia. Cap number of a little over $1.7 million. Rushed for a career high of 1,269 yards. I believe was fifth in the league. Had 11 rushing touchdowns. Pro Bowler. Now, the biggest cap number on running backs belongs to 2020 first round pick Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's just coming off IR. May not be active for the game, but even before he sprained an ankle in week 11. Seventh round pick, and this goes to the what I was saying, you can find it back anywhere. Isaiah Pacheco, taking carries for him, was basically Kansas City's lead ball carrier. Pacheco, cap number $727,145. So, collectively, for running back, you've got, for the key participants, and I'm including like Jerick McKinnon for Eagles, I'm throwing in Boston Gott and Kenneth Gainwell. You've got Chiefs, because I'm throwing Clyde in there as well, even though he may not be active. Chiefs, $4,735,129. Eagles, $4,308,009. Now, at wide receiver, the cap charges are pretty even, but they've taken different approaches to the wide receiver position, kind of like it's a different approach at quarterback. Chiefs have a little more devoted to their key participants. $11,564,058. Eagles, $11,214,188. But the Chiefs were intending to keep Tyreek Hill. But the receiver market went haywire. Signability became an issue. They decided, you know what? We got Mahomes with this huge cap number. We're going to go in another direction, figure out what we can do receiver. Thinking that Mahomes was talented enough where you don't necessarily need to have a elite wide receiver with him. So, what did they do? Dealt him to the Miami Dolphins last March for 5 picks. They got 2022 first, second, fourth round picks, a 2023 fourth, and a 2023 sixth. Hill signed a 4-year, $120 million extension with $72.2 million in guarantees, and $52.35 million was fully guaranteed signing. I call it $75 million over 3. He's got $45 million in the last year, so he's never going to see that. By trading him, the Chiefs picked up $18.035 million in cap space because his salary came off the books, just the proration left, and they went in another direction. Signed to veterans when they went in another direction. They signed Marquez Valdes-Scantling from the Packers. 3 years, $30 million was a contract. $15 million in guarantees. Incentives make the max value $12 million per year. They also brought Juju Smith-Schuster in on a 1-year prove-it deal. His free agent market bottomed out after playing 5 games in Pittsburgh because of a shoulder injury. He came back for the playoff game, but Tyreek Hill going, he was picking a spot. Where can I put up numbers and maybe rehabilitate myself for free agency? So it was a 1-year, $3.25 million contract. Incentives made the max value $10.75 million. And then they ended up doubling his roster bonus, his per-game roster bonus, from $30,000 per game to $60,000. So it went from $510 total to $1.02 million. And Smith-Schuster's done a pretty good job earning his incentives. There were $3 million of incentives based on receptions and receiving yards, which he did hit. He maxed those out when he hit the 65 catch and 900 receiving yard marks. He caught 78 passes for 933 yards during the season. He got another $1.5 million because his play time hit the required 65%, and Kansas City made it to the playoffs. There was a $1 million Pro Bowl incentive he didn't earn. Cruel twist of fate for Juju Smith-Schuster because he had an AFC Championship game win incentive where there are 3 things that had to happen for him to qualify. 2 of them he already had going into the game. He had the 65 catch and 900 yard thresholds were hit. Had to play 50% in the AFC Championship game. Well, he hurt his knee. Only played 45%. Hasn't technically earned $1 million. Has that same incentive for a Super Bowl win. Chiefs win the Super Bowl. He plays over 50%. He's not on the injury report anymore. He'll get the money because he's already hit 65 catches and 900 yards. Now, the Eagles decided to go out and get A.J. Brown from the Titans. And they gave up a 2022 first-round pick and 2022 third-round pick during the NFL draft and gave him a 4-year, $100 million contract extension with over $57 million, slightly more than $57 million in guarantees in connection with the trade. Go out and get that number 1 weapon, elite receiver for Jalen Hurts, kind of like Buffalo did with Stephon Diggs, and Miami did with his old college teammate Alabama, Tua Tagovailoa, and Hurts, MVP candidate, MVP runner-up, unlocked him just like Buffalo Josh Allen. 2 different approaches to the wide receiver position, although the spending is essentially the same from a cap standpoint. Both teams put money into tight end, and they have 2 of the highest paid tight ends in the league. The huge discrepancy in the cap numbers, though. You got $9,357,051 for the Chiefs, $4,570,162 for the Eagles. Travis Kelce is on a 4-year extension averaging $14,312,500, which quite frankly is a bargain given there's never been a tight end as productive as he's been in the history of the game. Dallas Goedert, after Zach Ertz was traded to the Cardinals, signed a 4-year extension averaging $14.25 million per year. And there's been a whole lot going on with Travis Kelce's cap number this year. That his original cap number was $8,855,882. That was the original 2022 cap number. Now, because his contract was structured in such a team-friendly manner that it was backloaded in terms of the cash, the Chiefs took $3 million from his 2023 and 2024 salaries, $3 million combined, and moved it into 2022. So his cap number jumped to $11,855,882. It's like, well, how come they have less than $10 million in allocated to the cap and tight ends? Well, in the middle of October, they did a salary conversion where they converted $4,607,778 to signing bonus and prorated it through 2025, which dropped his cap number for the season to $8,444,166. So, whole lot going on with Travis Kelce. Now, nothing like that with Dallas Goedert. Goddard's contract uses the signing option bonus structure, and it has 2 option bonuses. This is something Philadelphia started doing with several players. You don't see it that often in the league. Russell Wilson's contract has the double option bonus structure. Myles Garrett's does with the Browns. One of the first I saw under the since the 2011 CBA was Joe Flacco's with the Ravens. After he played out of his mind to become the highest paid player, 2 option bonuses with his. Now, since option bonuses are prorated, it's a way you can keep the cap numbers low in the early parts of the contract, and then they'll spike at some point. Goddard's cap number is $3,729,697 this year. He didn't have a big cap number. It's like 6.6 next year. Then it jumps to over 19.5 in 2024. So if they made a mistake on Goddard, then you're going to have a ton of proration because you have the signing bonus and you're going to have the option bonuses proration. That's why Carson Wentz had $33.8 million in dead money. 1 option bonus with the signing bonus, but when you've got multiple years of option bonus proration and multiple years of signing bonus proration when you release someone, that's how you get a huge dead money number. Now, both these teams operate under the premise that everything starts in the trenches, as well as in addition to having a high-quality quarterback. But both these teams put money on the lines, both sides of the ball. Now, they're just doing it a little bit differently in terms of the composition of the players. The cap charges, not that much of a difference. Chiefs, $28,151,566. Eagles, $29,301,283. Now, Chiefs, it's a mix of, you got some low-cost guys on rookie contracts sprinkled in with vets. And the biggest cap charge out of anybody belongs to Orlando Brown. They stuck a franchise tag on Orlando Brown for $16.662 million. Couldn't get a long-term deal worked out for him, and it's very understandable why, because no competent agent in his right mind would have accepted the offer the Chiefs made to him, their final offer. It was going to make him the highest paid offensive lineman in the league at $23,166,667 per year. That's all well and good, but it was along the lines of this Travis Kelce deal being heavily backloaded. $139 million over 6 years. The biggest signing bonus ever for an offensive lineman at $30.25 million until Quentin Nelson got $31 million right before the start of the regular season. Yeah, but it was really 95 over 5 years because there's $44 million in 2027 that he's never going to see. Now, that's great right tackle money. And Orlando Brown played right tackle before the trade, and that's about what he should have been at had he stayed right tackle, because he's a better right tackle than left tackle, in my opinion. There's no way for a 26-year-old player you sign a 6-year deal. Probably have to franchise him again this year, but he's counting on the cap there at that amount. You've got Joe Thuney that the Chiefs brought over in 2021 free agency that was made the highest paid guard for an $80 million contract over 5 years, $46.9 million in guarantees. Tooney's cap number this year is $8,151,250. Now, the Chiefs balance out these two cap numbers with the 2021, hitting on guys in the 2021 draft in particular, center Creed Humphrey, who's in the conversation for best center in the league. He was a second-round pick in 2021, cap number of $1,274,260. Then right guard, sixth-round pick Trey Smith, potential Pro Bowler, $867,116 cap hit. So that's how they handle their offensive line. Now, the Eagles, it's more veterans than anything else. Landon Dickerson's the only one on a rookie contract, their left guard. But one thing that Philadelphia has done dating back to when Joe Banner, who was Howie Roseman's mentor, when he was a longtime president of the Eagles, he was one of the first in the NFL to start locking up core players well in advance of free agency, realizing that if you did that and you hit on those players, that it's going to be cheaper than waiting. And that's something that Howie Roseman's done. And he got way ahead of the curve with left tackle Jordan Mailata, who wasn't supposed to be the left tackle. It was supposed to be Andre Dillard. They drafted Andre Dillard in the first round in 2019. Mailata was a project. Rugby player, hadn't played football, from Australia, New Zealand, I forget which one. 7th round pick in 2018. Beats out Dillard in 2021 preseason to be the left tackle. Now, at that time, Howie decided, I'm going to extend him. He's in the last year of his rookie contract. $64 million over 4 years, worth up to $80 million through salary escalators, $40.5 million in guarantees. So you've got a left tackle who's on a cost-contained contract when that market's going to probably start heading over $25 million per year this year because of Laramie Tunsil. And you've got Lane Johnson, who's on his second big contract extension. They redid it in 2019 and made him the highest paid tackle in football at the time at $18 million per year. And typically you don't see a right tackle as the highest paid player. He's the reason why the right tackle market took off and why you've got guys like Ryan Ramczyk, Brian O'Neill, who are now making more than his $18 million. But he's got a cap number this year of $10,911,653, and that is the third highest cap number that the Eagles have. Now, let's go over to the defensive side of the ball, and we're going to start on the line, along the lines of the theme that everything starts in the trenches with these teams. You'll see that from the cap expenditures. Now, for edge rushers, pretty even distribution. Chiefs, $19,503,920. Eagles, $16,921,136. Now, the Eagles, this is where one of the places they've taken advantage of Hurts's cheap contract. They have got so much depth along the defensive line, it's ridiculous. They had 70 sacks this year, which is tied for the third most in an NFL season. They come at you with waves on the defensive line. And their defensive line is headlined by their marquee free agent signing, who now is a little bit of a steal, Son Reddick. Career high 16 sacks, which are tied for second most in the league. He's on a 3-year, $45 million contract, which is worth up to $46.5 million. For incentives and salary escalators, $30 million is fully guaranteed at signing from when he came over as an unrestricted free agent last March. He's only got a cap number of $3.78 million, because one thing Howie Roseman likes to do is he'll kind of what I'll call cheat the cap. It's legal, but He adds voiding dummy years to contracts. So in Reddick's case, instead of prorating his signing bonus over 3 years, you get to prorate it over 5 because they tacked on 2 voiding dummy years. And this is a recurring staple with Eagles contracts, and it dates back to 2016, more or less, when Howie got put back in charge, and when Chip Kelly was when he took over running the organization from former head coach Chip Kelly. So they have lower cap numbers in addition to having a cheap quarterback because of the use of the dummy years. Now, voiding dummy years. That's why you have that cap charge I was talking about earlier for Derek Barnett, because he had voiding dummy years and they re-signed him. That's why it's basically $7.248 million for him for that reason. And that's part of the reason, because of voiding dummy years, why you have such a large dead money charge for Fletcher. Not dead money, excuse me. What would have been a dead money charge for Fletcher Cox had he not re-signed, being a part of his cap number for when they made him a post-June 1 designation. Now, Philadelphia's largest cap number comes from Brandon Graham, who did have double-digit sacks this year, but he was more or less a situational pass rusher. He's at $9.413 million, which is the 5th largest on the team. Now, Kansas City's cap charges more or less come from one player, Frank Clark. They have 2 guys on rookie contracts, Mike Dana and George Karlaftis, their first-round pick. So those, like Karlaftis, is $2,172,452 is a cap hit. Now, Frank Clark took a pretty big pay cut not to be put on the open market. He originally had a cap number of $26.3 million this year, but that got chopped down to $13,361,111, which is the 4th largest on Kansas City. And he was going to make $19.5 million, took a pay cut to $6.75 million, can make some of it back, had $7 million in incentives in his contract. Now, where the bulk of the money is for these teams is the interior, the defensive line, and still, it's allocated differently. Philadelphia comes in waves, multiple players. Theirs is bigger allocation of resources than Kansas City's. Kansas City's comes from primarily one player. Interior defensive line, $33,402,751 for Kansas City, $42,768,891 for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the 2 biggest cap charges on the Eagles come from the interior defensive line. Javon Hargrave, who's in a contract year, $17.802 million, and Fletcher Cox, between his new cap number and the charge they had for the post-U1 designation, $16,827,705. They brought in reinforcements during the middle of the year. Philadelphia did, by signing Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh midway during the season. They have incentive-laden contracts, which they get money, additional money for what happens in the playoffs. Both of them had to play 30% in the regular season over the last 8 games, which they did. And be on the 50-man roster for the playoffs, which they are, and is $125,000 for each playoff win. So that's Philadelphia, in addition to having their first-round pick, Jordan Davis, who's got a cap number of $3,094,816. Kansas City, it's basically the Chris Jones show. He's got the 5th largest cap number in the league. So Kansas City, 2nd largest cap number in the league, Mahomes. 5th largest cap number in the league with Chris Jones. It's $29,415,666. He was the best defensive lineman in football this year, and that's even when Aaron Donald was healthy before he was lost for the last 6 games because of an ankle sprain. So that's how things go for the defensive line. Neither team puts any money into linebacker, which that's a position which is has haves and have-nots for the most part. You got your Roquan Smiths, your Fred Warners, your Shaquille Leonards, 19, 20 million per year. You had a guy like Bobby Wagner, who hasn't lost a step, who had a hard time getting to 10 million in the open market because of his age. You have this market gets misread more than any market in free agency, I think, where linebackers overplay their hand, think they can get X, and then it's going to be X minus 1 or X minus 2 in free agency. But Philadelphia's got a little more invested, $3,037,965,000, and cap charges to Kansas City's $2,556,391. Kansas City's 2 linebackers are second-round picks, so they're on low-cost rookie contracts. Willie Gay, 2020 second-round pick, and Nick Bolton, a 2021 second-round pick. Gay and Bolton's respective cap numbers are $1,221,033 and $1,335,358. The biggest cap charge among any of these guys is Kazir White for the Eagles. He's got a cap number of $1,835,965. He came to the Eagles on a 1-year, $3 million deal with another $2 million in incentives. They tacked on 4 avoiding dummy years, which is why his cap number is so low. But their every down linebacker, TJ Edwards, has a cap number $1.202 million. Edwards took over as every down linebacker midway during the 2021 season. He was going to be a restricted free agent, and restricted free agents don't necessarily get tendered. So they did an extension, 1-year extension, middle of the season last year for $1.25 million, and it maxes out at 3.2 of incentives, which he earned. He had a 1.135 signing bonus, which helps explain why his cap number is so low. Now, moving on to the secondary. The Chiefs have lower cap charges at cornerback than the significantly lower than the Eagles. $5,209,161 versus $14,560,476 for the Eagles. And the reason that is that Kansas City went with a youth movement at cornerback. They had Travarius Ward, who was up as a free agent. Can't keep everyone. Goes to the Niners. 3-year contract, $40.5 million. The deal maxes out at $42 million for incentives. He had $26.2 million in guarantees. So you lost your best corner because there's no way you were going to pay a corner that type of money or devote those types of resources. So their cornerbacks are on rookie contracts. Trent McDuffie, first-round pick this year, $2,546,456. L'Jarius Sneed, also on a rookie contract, $1,060,070. Jalen Watson, 7th-round pick this year, $728,710 cap number. Now, McDuffie's interesting from this standpoint. 2 of the picks from the Hill trade were used to go get McDuffie. Kansas City was sitting at 29th in the draft, and they moved up to 21st by giving up, packaging that pick at 29 and their 4th-round pick for McDuffie. Now, the Eagles arguably have the best cornerback tandem in the league with Darius Slay and James Bradbury. Slay has the 4th largest cap hit on the Eagles at $9.731 million. He's on a 3-year extension averaging almost $17 million per year, which at the time made him the highest paid wide receiver not wide receiver, cornerback when he was traded in 2020 from the Eagles, from the Alliance of the Eagles. Now, James Bradberry is a big steal for the Eagles. That Bradberry's on a 1-year, $7.25 million contract, worth a maximum of $10 million through incentives. The division rival New York Giants let him go in May as a salary cap casualty, and he was tremendous this year. This is a guy that opposing quarterbacks only completed 46% of their passes against him for a 54.2 passer rating. Now, the use of avoiding dummy years is the reason why on his 1-year deal he's got a cap number of $2,281,245. Now, rounding out the secondary cap charges, we're going to look at the safety position, and it's the Chiefs who have more than twice as much allocated cap-wise at safety than the Eagles, $8,758,769 to $4,221,851. For Kansas City, it's another instance of where the composition of the position changed from last year. There's one key player on a veteran contract. That's Justin Reed, who they signed to a 3-year, $31.5 million deal with $20.485 million fully guaranteed in free agency last March. He replaced Tyrann Mathieu, the 3-time first-team All-Pro, whose contract expired after the 2021 season. Now, Reed's running mate, Juan Thornhill, 2020 second-round pick, has a cap number of $3,143,284, which is also bigger than any individual cap number the Eagles have at safety. Now, Reed's cap number is more than all the combined cap numbers for the Eagles. He's got a $4.5 million cap hit. Now, the Eagles made a trade late in the preseason, which ended up paying huge dividends. They got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson from the Saints, and that's because they reached an impasse in negotiations. He was a slot corner in New Orleans primarily. He's now a traditional true safety with the Eagles, and despite missing 5 games for kidney laceration, he was the NFL's co-leader in interceptions with 6. He's got a $2.54 million cap hit. So he's there. They had 2 guys who helped change their secondary, bringing over Bradberry, whose cap number is under 2.1. So they really changed the composition of their secondary for less than $4.8 million. Picking up someone who was a salary cap victim and making a trade. Marcus Epps, the other safety, $972,965 million cap hit. Now, special teams is an important part of the game. The expenditures are relatively even. You got the Eagles leading the way at $5.349 million versus the Chiefs at $4,927,905. Now, both teams have their biggest cap charges in kickers. Eagles kicker Jake Elliott has the biggest cap charge among anybody, $2.914 million. Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker is not far behind, $2,736,525. Both these guys are on deals averaging over $4 million per year. The long snappers, Rick Lovato, $1.46 million is his total cap charge. James Winchester, $1,284,440. Now, the Chiefs have a huge bargain with their punter. Tommy Townsend was a 2020 undrafted free agent. He's wrapping up a 3-year rookie deal for total value of the deal $2,292,500. Total value of his rookie deal. Townsend earned first-team All-Pro honors this year, had a league best $45.6 million net punting average. He's got a cap number of $906,940. Now, he's going to be a restricted free agent after the year, so the Chiefs have to figure out which tender they give him. I assume they're going to sign him to try to lock him up, but they'll give him a tender first. And he'll be, if not the highest paid punter, the second highest paid punter. So it's going to be a deal of at least $3.5 million per year. But first, they can stick the lowest free agent tender for $2.627 million, which would only give them a right of first refusal or matching rights if he signed an offer sheet. Or they could effectively take him out of the market by sticking a second-round tender on him. Nobody's giving up a second-round pick for a restricted free agent generally, let alone for a kicker or punter. That tender's $4.304 million, but if you do that, then the agent can rightfully say, well, if you think he's worth that for a tender, then that should be his value in a long-term deal. That goes through all the different positions. There's one other thing I want to mention as well. If you look at the two teams, the Chiefs are way more top-heavy than the Eagles in terms of their cap charges, because you got one guy, Mahomes, second biggest cap number in the league. Jones, fifth biggest cap number in the league. You got Orlando Brown, who's playing on a franchise tag. And you take their top 5 cap numbers, Kansas City's collectively, $103,676,324. Those 5 cap hits account for 49.21% of Kansas City's adjusted cap of $210,680,092. Those 5 guys basically take up half of their cap space. 5 guys. Not nearly the same with Philadelphia. Their 2 biggest cap hits come from the interior of the defensive line. They only have 3 cap hits over $10 million collectively. And this is because you're not paying a quarterback. From a financial standpoint or from a cap standpoint, you're just not paying a quarterback right now. So a little bit different. That they've got $64,685,358 in cap space devoted to their top 5 cap numbers. And then they also have a bigger adjusted cap. So these 5 guys, much bigger, only take up 28.72% of the cap. So you're talking almost half to a little over a quarter. And Philadelphia's got that adjusted cap at $227,793. So Philadelphia has far less money devoted to their top 5. The adjusted cap is over $15 million, well, basically about $15 million more than, a little under, I should say, $15 million more than Kansas City's. Their dead money, in recap, double Kansas City's, and it would be more if I had a different definition where I was throwing Fletcher Cox over there and I was throwing Derek Barnett, but I'm not. Since they're on the team, that goes in their actual cap charge, but still. So we can see that there is more than one way to build a roster, different strokes for different folks. Kansas City got their high-priced quarterback, having to make some judicious choices compared to last year's roster. Hit on draft picks, particularly in the secondary this year. 2 2022 picks compose cap charges in the secondary. Hit in 2021 in the same manner on the offensive line. Philadelphia, with that cap number of next to nothing for Jalen Hurts. Brought in a lot of depth, particularly on the defensive line. Made some midseason moves. And I didn't even mention the trade for Robert Quinn, who hasn't really contributed much since he came over from Chicago. They were able to pick up a cap casualty in the secondary in Bradbury, and also made a trade late in the preseason for Johnson. They liberally used avoiding dummy years and will restructure contracts with the best of them. But you can see two different approaches to get to the Super Bowl and what you do with the cap. That's going to be it for this week's Inside the Cap. Don't forget you can find me on Twitter at Corey Joel. That's CORRYJOEL. And also read my regular CBSSports.com column, Agent's Take on NFL salary cap and contract matters. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you back here next time. Goodbye.